Suddenly husband returns with mistress and 2 kids. I'll support them. Divorce or move? Me. Let's live together. Husband and mistress what? A month later, what is wife's true intention? Actually. By the way, starting today, I'm going to take care of these 3, which means you're no longer needed around here. I have spent most of my adult life buried in work, hardly paying attention to anything else. I was in my late 20s, but never even had a real boyfriend before. One day, my colleague Karen introduced me to a man named Kyle, saying he might be a good match for me. Kyle was the epitome of a charming man, handsome, confident, and seemingly perfect at everything he did. I fell for him instantly. After dating for a while, we got married. In the beginning, I couldn't have been happier. Kyle worked at a small company, but he never seemed bothered by the fact that I earned more than him. In fact, he supported my career wholeheartedly. But after a year of marriage, his behavior changed drastically. You've been coming home late a lot recently. Is work getting more demanding? Yeah, something like that. But my job's nothing compared to your fancy corporate gig, right? His response shocked me. When we first got married, he never said anything so condescending. From then on, every conversation with Kyle seemed to carry a sharp edge. Did I say something to upset you? If I did, please tell me, so I can fix it. No, you didn't. But maybe the problem is you. He said it with an irritated tone, like I was the one causing all the trouble. Over time, it wasn't just late nights. He began coming home at dawn, and it became a regular occurrence soon enough. We agreed to let each other know if we'd be late. Remember? It's worrying not hearing from you. Please don't forget. I've been too busy to call. You should understand that. I knew he could have at least sent a quick text, no matter how busy he was. Soon, my worry turned to frustration. Feeling helpless, I decided to reach out to Karen, the colleague who had introduced us. Karen, something's off with Kyle. He's been acting strange, coming home in the morning, and his attitude's completely changed. That does sound concerning, but sometimes, guys just get caught up in work and start neglecting their families. Maybe you're overthinking it. Karen spoke kindly, but her words didn't sit well with me. Then, Kyle disappeared for 3 whole days without a word. No matter how many times I called, he never picked up. Despite free answers, I decided to call Kyle's parents. Hi. Is Kyle with you? Knowing Kyle, he's fine. You don't need to worry so much. His mother didn't seem the least bit concerned. Her dismissive attitude only made my anxiety worse. Still, I couldn't shake the fear that something terrible had happened, and I decided to call the police. Just as I reached for my phone, the front door swung open with a loud bang. I rushed to the door, only to freeze in shock at the sight in front of me. Kyle was standing there, accompanied by 3 others. One of them was Karen, my colleague. The other 2 were twin babies. Hi, Janet. Starting today, we'll be staying here. I've made my decision. I'm going to take care of these 3 from now on. What are you talking about? You heard me. There's no need for you around here anymore. We need this house for the 4 of us now. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous? I say, you should be grateful we're at least giving you options. Divorce or move out. Those are your only choices. Hurry up and decide. Anger and confusion swirled in my head as I tried to think clearly. I couldn't stomach the idea of simply going along with our demands, getting a divorce, and leaving the house. Then, suddenly, an idea came to me. Fine, I'm not getting a divorce, and I'm not moving out either. I'm just going to stay here. What? Are you crazy? You have no reason to stay here. My name is on the title to this house, too. I have every right to stay. You're insane. Now, Kyle. Let her stay. I'd love to see how miserable she gets. And so an absurd cohabitation began. It was a living arrangement beyond anyone's imagination. I was now living with my husband, Kyle, his mistress, Karen, and their twin babies. Naturally, arguments erupted almost daily. You're seriously out of your mind. Any normal person would have left by now. And you think bringing your mistress into our home and asking your wife to leave is normal? Janet, you're pathetic, clinging on even after being dumped. I couldn't win in a 2-against-1 argument. It was just hopeless. That's when I decided to call for reinforcements. In other words, my parents. While Kyle and Karen were out, I invited my parents over to the house. We were sitting and discussing the situation when Kyle and Karen returned. What are you doing here? Oh, we have some business to take care of. We'll be staying here for a while. What? Are you kidding me? Our house is being renovated, so we'll only be here for a short time. Thanks for understanding. Kyle looked at my parents, visibly struggling to contain his anger, but I remained calm and composed. Kyle, you brought your mistress into this house without asking me, so I have every right to invite my parents here as well. After my parents moved in, Kyle and Karen continued to voice their complaints. Having you people around ruins my appetite. You're in the way. Exactly. Don't you feel ashamed of disrupting our happiness? Even so, my parents stayed calm, deflecting their verbal attacks. The calmer my parents were, the more aggressive Kyle and Karen's words became. The twins cry because they don't know you and think you are strangers. Isn't it common courtesy to just leave? Day by day, their behavior became more outrageous as they treated us with complete disdain. But my parents and I had a plan brewing during this month-long living arrangement. Kyle, I need to talk to you. I am ready to agree to the divorce. Finally. That took long enough. Just sign the papers already. So you have finally given up. What a waste of time this past month has been. Ignoring their gloating, I calmly continued. Just so you know, I'll be filing for alimony and claiming my share of the assets. What did you just say? Yeah. You're already leaving this house, so what more do you want? Don't be so selfish. Selfish? Carl, have you heard of the law? I'm loyal within my rights to file for alimony and claim my share of the assets. As long as you're leaving, that's all I care about. I'll pay whatever. Just get out of here. Exactly. Finally, we can live happily as a family of 4. Carl and Karen were convinced they had won, laughing triumphantly in front of me. But they had no idea how badly their situation was about to turn. Hearing their laughter, my parents stepped into the living room. What's so funny? She's finally leaving. She's given up. That makes this our victory. Now, we can enjoy this house as a family. I see. In that case, we will be filing a lawsuit against you. What? A lawsuit? What are you talking about? Oh, come on. There is no reason for us to get sued. Oh, there are plenty of reasons. And we've got everything you've done to my family on record. Cole and Karen visibly panicked at those words. What do you mean? This. My mom pulled out her phone and played an audio recording. Why are these old geezers even here? There's nothing but a nuisance. Completely useless. Don't they feel ashamed of ruining everything for us? As the audio played, Kyle and Karen's faces turned ghostly pale. We've been recording every nasty thing you've said over the past month. That's not all. My wife has been seeing a doctor for the mental stress you caused her, and Janet is in the same condition. Recording? You never told us about that. Of course not. Why would we be honest with people like you? Cole and Karen were frozen in place, too stunned to speak. With all this evidence, we'll have no problem winning in court, so you'd better prepare yourselves. Kyle, trembling, managed to stammer a response. Wait a second. This has to be a bluff, right? Why don't you find out in court? My mom delivered the line calmly, looking down at Kyle and Karen. I turned to my parents and said one simple thing. I don't want to deal with these people anymore. Let's just go home. My parents and I began packing up our belongings, preparing to leave. Kyle and Karen, realizing their situation, desperately tried to stop us. Hey, wait, if you do this, we're finished. Please, just don't sue us. Yeah, we can talk this out. Right? You don't have to be so cruel. We ignored their pleas and walked out of the house. Once outside, my parents and I got into a taxi. Through the window, I saw Kyle chasing after us. Please don't sue us. I'll do anything you want. I rolled down the window slightly and delivered one final line. You reap what you sow. Good luck. The taxi sped off, and Kyle's figure gradually disappeared from view. Afterward, I began the process of officially divorcing Kyle. Kyle agreed to the divorce without contesting the alimony or asset division. In fact, he was so terrified of being sued that he paid the alimony in one lump sum and agreed to split the assets. Karen also paid her share of the alimony. We also won the lawsuit for emotional distress, securing additional damages. After the trial, I returned to work and threw myself into my career. My dedication was recognized, and I was promoted to department manager. I may be single again, but maybe living for my work isn't so bad. And so, a new chapter in my life began. Hey, you are free right now, aren't you? Why don't you go run an errand for me? Nope. Not happening. Why not? You're off work today, and it's not like you have anything better to do. You don't even have a boyfriend. It's not like you're not doing anything either. Go to the store yourself. Besides, last time you asked me to get you some makeup, you never paid me back. I bet if I go today, you'll ask me to cover it again. Lately, I've been wondering if my sister thinks I'm her personal maid or something. She doesn't lift a finger herself, but she's always bossing me around to do this or that. I'm Jessica. At the time, I was 28, single, and commuting to work for my parents' house. I have an older sister, Emily, who is 3 years older than me. She got married 5 years ago. At first, she and her husband rented a nearby apartment and started their new life together. But within a year, they moved back into our parents' house. Well, Jessica, once you get married, Mom and Dad will be all alone, right? So I figured we'd move back in early to help them out. At least that's what she said. In reality, they couldn't afford their rent, so they moved in with us. Emily's reckless spending wasn't anything new, but it turned out her husband was just like her. Her husband's older brother and his wife already lived with his parents, so Emily and her husband couldn't move in there. Although, I had a feeling that wasn't the whole story. Emily didn't get along with her mother-in-law. It wasn't that her mother-in-law was terrible. Honestly, I think it was all because Emily just couldn't cooperate with others. I'd only met her mother-in-law once before the wedding and at the ceremony, but she seemed practical and level-headed. From the start, I figured someone like Emily, who loved extravagance, wouldn't mesh well with her. Sure enough, after the wedding, Emily and her mother-in-law hardly kept in touch. I hardly even set foot in my in-laws' house. As a matter of fact, her husband didn't seem to get along with his family either, so he didn't mind that Emily avoided them. Family is such a hassle. Every time I see them, all they want to do is complain about one thing or another. Since Andrea was their son-in-law, my parents went out of their way to be polite and accommodating. I'm sure he found living with us much easier than staying with his own family. I couldn't help but wonder if this arrangement was truly okay, but it wasn't my place to say anything, so I stayed silent. Hey, Jessica, when are you planning to move out of here? Why should I have to move out? Isn't it normal for the younger sister to be the one to move out? Especially since I'm here living with my husband? You two were the ones who decided to move in here. Mom and Dad didn't even ask you to live with them. I'm living here because I'm thinking about Mom. Funny because you don't help her with anything. My mom was a homemaker, and she was amazing at managing everything flawlessly. 7 years ago though, she fell down the stairs at a train station while trying to save a child who was about to trip. Luckily, the child wasn't seriously hurt, but Mom hit her head badly, which caused her to lose her eyesight. But Mom was always a strong person. Instead of wallowing in her situation, she immediately set about adapting to her new reality. She quickly learned Braille. It must have been terrifying and heartbreaking to lose her sight so suddenly, but she never once complained or broke down in front of us. In fact, it was Dad and I who were shaken and unsure of how to cope. Emily, however, just brushed it off with a casual, "Oh, really?" It's not that Emily was cold-hearted. She just treated Mom's accident like it was someone else's problem. Jessica, just find yourself a guy, any guy, and get married already. At this rate, you're going to end up as a spinster. Hurry up and get married already. You're seriously making things inconvenient for me. Getting married isn't my top priority right now, and I don't think I want to go as far as actively seeking marriage just to get married. Oh, stop pretending. You're just too unattractive for anyone to be interested in you. That's really out of line, and you have no right to say that to me, Emily. Just stay out of my business. Every time I see Emily these days, all she says is move out already, and it's starting to drive me crazy. My parents scolded her for it, but, Mom, Dad, look, I'm the one who's going to take care of you two in your old age. Why are you even siding with Jessica? Emily would say things like that without hesitation. Hearing her talk like that was making it harder and harder for me to stay, but the thought of leaving on her terms didn't sit right with me either. However, at the age of 30, I was fortunate enough to meet someone and get married. I was thrilled, but the idea of leaving Mom in Emily's care made me uneasy. Don't worry about your mother. I can take care of myself, honey. There is no need for you to worry. With their reassurance, I finally moved out, and my husband said, if anything happens, I'm ready for your parents to move in with us anytime. Michael had already lost his own parents, and he cared deeply for mine. I was so grateful for that. To stay close enough to check on Mom whenever I needed, I quit my corporate job after getting married and started working part-time at a nearby shop. Michael supported my decision wholeheartedly, but just a year into our marriage, Dad fell ill and passed away before we could even process what was happening. Michael and I had hoped to spend many more years making Dad happy, but we never imagined he'd leave us so soon. Before I could even begin to grieve properly, Emily and her husband brought up Dad's inheritance. So, about how we're going to split Dad's inheritance, can you not? We haven't even finished dealing with a funeral. It's better to settle these things quickly, isn't it? I don't think there's any need to rush. We have our reasons. What reasons? From what I gathered, both Emily and Andrew were drowning in debt from overspending and failed investments. They were desperate to use the inheritance to clear their debts as soon as possible. Debt? What on earth have you been doing? They told us it was a sure thing, so we went for it. We were even thinking of cutting you in on the profits, Jessica. Hearing them laugh about it, I couldn't help but think what a perfect match they were. Emily proposed splitting Dad's cash and assets with Mom, while I would inherit the family home. Dad had left behind around $500,000 in cash savings and investments. The land, however, was only worth about $100,000, and since Mom and Emily's family were living there, it wasn't something I could sell. It was obvious Emily secretly wanted all the cash and investments for herself, but she framed it as splitting it with Mom to reduce inheritance taxes. The fact that she brought this up so soon after Dad's death was infuriating, and her conveniently skewed division proposal only made me angrier. I never wanted Dad's inheritance, But seeing Emily laugh while talking about it made me feel nothing but disgust. Look, we live here, don't we? And we'll be the ones taking care of Mom from now on. Not wanting to keep having this conversation, I talked it over with Michael. I don't like the way they're going about it, but if they're giving half the cash to your mom, I guess that's reasonable. I couldn't help but agree with him on that point. Even if their motives were selfish, as long as Mom's share was secure, I didn't need anything for myself. Ultimately, I'll support whatever decision you make. Thank you. Fighting over money would only make Dad sad. Besides, they seem to be considering Mom's needs, so I accepted Emily and Andrew's proposal. Oh, thank God. Now we can pay off our debts and still have some left over. Watching Emily's excitement, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of doubt. Would she really take proper care of Mom? Could I trust her? Still, I figured that with Dad gone, there was no way they'd neglect Mom, especially since she was visually impaired. Hey, Mom, why don't you come live with us? Michael's happy to have you. And honestly, I feel a lot better. Hold on, Jessica. What are you trying to pull? Are you planning to take Mom's share of the inheritance? Of course not. Yeah, right. I don't trust you one bit. Don't bother coming here anymore. Her attitude made me angry, but I didn't want to cause any trouble that might affect Mom, so I let it go. Not long after, I got a call from Emily saying they decided to buy a house. This house is old and so inconvenient. The grocery store and train station are far away, and that's Deep Hill. Mom's getting older, so I think this is the best option. That might be true, but besides, this house technically belongs to you now. If you ever decided to charge us rent, I'd just lose it. Who wants to pay for a dump like this? Mom lives here too. I'd never do something like that. Yeah, well, who knows when you might change your mind. I'd hate for you to suddenly kick us out. And, honestly, I can't stand the thought of you acting all superior about it. As usual, Emily just said whatever suited her. Still, I wanted to believe she had Mom's best interests at heart. Mom couldn't drive because of her blindness. She managed to light errands with her cane, but I knew that hill was becoming harder for her to climb. It's good exercise. Mom always said that, but it was obvious that it was getting tougher for her every year. 3 months later, after not hearing from Emily for a while, I got a call. The house is finished, so we've moved. Wait, you didn't tell me your moving date. I would have helped if I'd known. That wasn't necessary. Mom's with you, right? Don't worry. We left Mom behind. What? So Mom's alone at the house? Exactly. Bye. And with that, she hung up. I couldn't process what had just happened, but I rushed back to the house. When I stepped inside, I was shocked. The house was a complete mess. It looked like Emily had only taken what she wanted, leaving everything else in chaos. Mom, where are you? Jessica, I'm in the living room. I followed her voice and found her sitting in the living room with a cloth pressed to her head. Mom, what happened? The floor was such a mess that I tripped and fell. Look, I've got a bump on my head. Mom laughed as she said it, but this was no laughing matter. Leaving Mom alone in such a chaotic house was absolutely unforgivable. What if she had hit her head in the wrong place? I didn't even want to imagine what that could have resulted in. Her phone was nowhere to be found, and she couldn't locate it. Her smartphone, equipped with voice recognition, was her only way to contact anyone. After searching, I found it on top of a kitchen shelf, completely out of battery. It was useless in this state, and my anger toward Emily was boiling over. I brought Mom back to my house right away. That evening, after we had dinner and finally relaxed, I asked Mom if she knew where Emily had moved. Emily's really something, isn't she? Honestly, I had a feeling this might happen when she first talked about buying a house. You knew? It's exactly the kind of thing she would do. So should we just sell this house? When I heard what Mom had to say next, both Michael and I were stunned. It turned out that Emily hadn't taken out a loan for her new house. She'd used the inheritance money Mom had received. That explained why she had so easily handed over half of the savings to Mom. Her plan from the start happened to use Mom's money to buy herself a house. Once the house was bought, she must have thought it's ours now and left Mom behind. But Mom, being the smart woman she was, wasn't about to let Emily get away with it. Emily must have underestimated Mom because of her blindness. It looks like Emily forgot something very important. Following Mom's instructions, I immediately contacted a realtor to start the process of selling Emily's brand new house. I also consulted a lawyer and sent Emily and Andrew a formal eviction notice. Up until then, Emily had ignored all my attempts to contact her, but this time, she called back immediately. What the hell is this eviction notice? This is our house. Why do we have to leave? That house belongs to Mom. She is the one who paid for it. It's our house. Who cares whose money it was? I had her buy it for me. But the house is in Mom's name, isn't it? She doesn't want to live there, so she asked me to handle the sale. What? You should have realized this during the purchase process. Mom handled all the paperwork herself. You shouldn't leave important matters like that to someone else. Mom's not the kind of person who lets things slide. Emily always avoided dealing with anything difficult, which is why Mom had taken care of the realtor and all the paperwork. If Emily thought she could have Mom pay for everything and then somehow transfer the title to herself, it was laughable. But it was exactly the kind of thing Emily would do. Mom had already guessed that there was no way Emily would ever live with her in that house. Still, Mom had been willing to live with Emily and Andrew in their new home if, by some miracle, they had brought her along. So are you saying we can't live here anymore? Exactly. Why don't you rent an apartment or a condo somewhere? But renting a place would cost money. Of course, it would. Maybe try working for a change. Wait. Then we'll take Mom in. That's fine, right? We'll do it. Don't even try to turn this around now. I'm not letting that happen. Emily even showed up at my house to try and force Mom to come with her, but Mom refused outright. With a lawyer present, we finally managed to have Emily and Andrew vacate the new house. The house was sold, and we managed to recover nearly the full purchase price. Then something completely unexpected happened. The area around the family home I had inherited was selected for land development, with plans for a hotel to be built there. The value of the land skyrocketed. The land ended up selling for nearly 10 times its original appraised value. Life really has a way of surprising you. But when Emily and Andrew heard about this, they came barging back into our lives. Hey, if the land value went up, then you need to split the extra with us. Yeah, we deserve a share of that money. Even if the value increased, the inheritance was already settled. Emily kept arguing, but I reminded her about the formal agreement she has so meticulously drawn up when we divided the inheritance. Emily, you were the one who wrote it and signed it. It says, no objections under any circumstances. That was just to stop you from coming back for more. I didn't mean it like this. That doesn't hold up, Emily. But we have so many expenses, and we're struggling. Don't tell me that you're still living the same way you did before. You didn't contribute a single cent to the household when you were living with Mom. It was appalling to think about how they had freeloaded for so long without contributing anything. If a married couple refuses to lower their lifestyle while living off their parents, of course, they're going to run out of money. As Emily and Andrew's harassment escalated, Michael and I finally decided to move. Michael's job transfer was perfectly timed, and we quietly relocated with Mom to a new home. The new house was close to Michael's workplace, cutting his commute, which made him very happy. Emily and Andrew tried to contact us several times after that, but we blocked all their calls. Now, Mom, Michael, and I live a peaceful and quiet life together. I'm committed to taking care of Mom and ensuring we continue to live happily as a family.